Hi, David Seymour, back with a session with Nitty, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Shane Cortese, who is a auction manager for Harcourts at Cooper and Co in Takapuna.
Correct, yeah.
Hi Shane, thanks for coming on board.
It's lovely to be here, my friend. Yeah.
Cool. Hey Shane, give us a little bit of background as to why you decided to get into real estate auctioneering.
Sure. Look, in my previous career, which was reasonably profiled, I had 25 years, a quarter of a century of doing a job that I absolutely loved, and I saw the world, and I did some great stuff. But 12 years ago and 8 years ago, I had two children, Case and Jet, who are the loves of my life, and I found that I was Skyping them a lot and talking to them from afar, from touring. And although I got to a reasonably high level here in New Zealand, money was still, it's not forthcoming as much as what we wanted it to be, and I wanted the boys to have the best of life. So I was on a plane to Queenstown with a gentleman by the name of Chris Jones, a very close friend of mine, but he's actually the general manager of Sotheby's International Realty. And he said, look, we've been talking, and we think that you'd be reasonably good at coming in and working with real estate. What do you think? And I said, oh gosh, I've never even thought about that at all. It's not my scene. But to cut a long story short, after some meetings down there and talking to the upper management of Sotheby's, I thought this is a great move. And I sat my license, and I did my license, and I thoroughly enjoyed the legal side of it, the law side of real estate, and just hooked into it. And look, it's now become my absolute passion. I wake up in the morning and I think about, and we'll talk about it later, about auctioneering, and I go to bed thinking about auctioneering. I'm probably one of the most boring men in the world now, or whatever, because I'll talk to anybody about auctioneering all day. But I actually now fallen in love with real estate and the, for want of a better word, the nitty gritty of the human psychology of selling and getting people across the line and the thrill of the auction sale.
Oh, excellent. So Shane, you started with Sotheby's, good grounding there, obviously with your auctioning, and now you're with Cooper and Co, Harcourts and Takapuna.
Yeah.
How does that go for you?
Yeah, look, I always saw Harcourts, particularly Cooper and Co, as the All Blacks of auctioneering. They've got some great auctioneers there, guys like Andrew North, Aaron Davis, the current New Zealand champion, works there. Robert Tolp, who's a champion. They all work there. So I would go there on a Thursday night and watch the auctions, and we all know each other, auctioneers from the circuit or whatever. So I always saw them as the upper echelon of auctioneers. They're absolutely training focused and results driven. As a group of auctioneers now, we train together on a regular basis, and when I say regular, once to twice a week on numbers and legalities. We're constantly talking to each other on the phone. Thursday night in-rooms are an awful lot of fun, because generally there can be up to 5 different auctioneers calling, so the energy in the room is really good. Agents get a choice of auctioneer for their clients,
right?
And I always saw the level of that particular brand of auctioneer was very, very strong, and I wanted to be part of the team. And when I was offered the opportunity to be part of the team in a high-profile role with part of the team, I grabbed it with both hands, and it's been an incredible transition to that company for me, as far as my exponential growth in one, in real estate, and two, in selling by auction.
Right. So Shane, you're a licensed real estate salesperson, but you're also an auctioneer. So you don't actually list and sell, you just auction now?
Absolutely. So we call a number of auctions a week, a lot of auctions a week. So there's no time to list and sell for us auctioneers. I do go out and list with agents from an auctioneering point of view. That's deeply gratifying when you know that someone's going to get a listing because of your help with them. We can talk about auctions all day, but when I go into a listing presentation, I never mention the word. I never mention the word auction at all. It's we talk about the main thing for me is that an agent gets an exclusive listing, and we get the best result for our buyer, for our vendor rather. But we'll talk about all the different strategies of marketing, whether it be tender or price by negotiation, but the main question to ask is what's going on, what's moving forward, what's the result, what do they want to achieve out of this, and then we can work it round to the best thing. Sometimes an auction is not the best campaign for them, and first to realise that, and we point them in another direction. But in the first instance, I always believe in unconditional sale and a contract that is deeply favourable to the vendor is the first way
Oh, exactly.
to test the market.
Yeah. So Shane, in your office there in Takapuna, what would be a sort of normal number of auctions that you're doing on a weekly, monthly basis?
Yeah, sure. So there's 14 franchises within the Cooper & Co group. So
Right.
we're at Hobsonville, we're in Greenhithe, we're in Albany, we're in Takapuna, we're in Birkin. So there's not just the Takapuna
Right.
is where our main auction rooms are. So we auction in rooms on a Thursday night, and generally on a Sunday out in the field.
Oh, okay.
Although there is the odd occasion that we'll do it during the week as well. Look, we like to. It's been a light year this year for listings, and I think that's a reasonably well documented fact that listings are tight.
That's across the market.
It's not exclusive to us, right?
Yeah.
Look, we would like to be calling in the vicinity of 25 to 30 a week between the auctioneers. So there's still a lot of money changing hands. Every second week, every second Monday, I do a video out into the marketplace that just gives a full rundown of what's happened over the fortnight, how many properties have sold, the percentage, how many people have been to see the auctions, and interestingly enough, the amount of unconditional dollars that have been brought in from the auction process as well. So it's definitely a very flattening of the market, but we're finding that the auctions that we do get, there tends to be an average at the moment of around about 72 to 78% under the hammer on the day.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then within 14 days after that, it gets pretty high. And as we've just seen, actually, Mark, on a lot of people come and talk. There's a lot of laymen out there. I was having a coffee the other day at Huckleberry over in Browns Bay, and the two guys at the counter, two young guys, were experts on auctions from watching the block. Okay, and they were going, only two of them sold and stuff like that. And I didn't say anything, but I went back to our sales meeting. I said, hey, this is what I've heard. And this is the positives of what happened with it. We must remember that there are people out there that are seeing that maybe auctions don't work because it doesn't come down. The hammer doesn't come down, but all four of those properties sold within 4 days of that auction. So that's what an auction does. It just brings things to a point and allows, if the hammer doesn't come down, then it allows us the opportunity to negotiate afterwards with that highest bidder.
Yeah, true there. So Shane, from a salesperson's point of view, they've got an auction, they do the campaign. It's normally a 4-week marketing campaign. What do you say to the salesperson if that property hasn't sold under the hammer that night? Sometimes the salespeople can feel a bit gutted because they've sort of, I use the word, promised the earth to the vendor, and it doesn't sell.
Yes, it's a good question, and it's a regular question asked. But look, I've put together a program called Past In, What Happens Next.
Yeah. I
mean, let's face it. If we're selling 72% under the hammer, there's 28% that have been passed in. The passed in is not the end of the world.
No.
It just means, Mr. Salesperson and Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that we haven't attracted our unconditional buy yet. So we just go back into the market on Part B. What we want to do is look for all intents and purposes, the 4-week marketing campaign is a really good marketing review of where the market sees the price of your property. So we're going to go for an unconditional sale on auction day, and if we don't get it sold on auction day, and I'm a glass half full guy, I believe that the hammer's coming down. So we're going to focus on that right now. The hammer doesn't come down, I tell you what, we'll have a really good, clear indication of where the price of your property should be, so we're not going to, 1, undersell it, or 2, overprice it and leave it on the market for a while. And Mr. and Mrs. Salesperson or whatever, hey, look, your job is to bring the market to the property and to project manage this campaign. Now you know as well as I do, if it doesn't sell under the hammer, then you've got an awful lot of people that you can now contact and talk about a price property with them. It's just phase 1 of a campaign. I don't think there's any such thing as a failed campaign. There's just failed communication.
Yeah, true. Shane, what are your thoughts about like someone in your position, you solely auction versus the salesperson who does auctions as well as listings and so forth? Is there a pros or cons in there worth looking at?
Yeah, I think there's both sides of the story, David. So look, a pro for a salesperson, auctioneer or whatever, is that they know the buyers and they know the sellers intimately. and come auction day. The only problem that you have there is having the conversations during the campaign with the buyers and the vendors, say that come auction day, I'm going to be in a very neutral position here, and what I've told you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, to get you entitled, once I know what the reserve price is on the day of the auction or 2 days beforehand, I can't divulge that to you, but it might be different numbers than what we were originally talking, because from what a vendor's going to accept at the start of the campaign to what they accept on auction day are always two different things. As long as you have that conversation, you're absolutely fine. So you'll know the market back and forth. I think the value of having an external auctioneer come in and work on your behalf is one, you can work the floor. You know who your hot buyers are, you know where they can go to, and an auctioneer stands there they're not going to earn money from the profit of the sale of the house, they're not going to earn money from the commission of the house, they're getting an auction fee, so they're just going to tell things as they are, straight and everything, you know? And so they sit there as a very neutral position, so they'll go on in those pauses, they'll go and talk to the buyers and they'll talk to the vendors from a, you know, it's a non-emotional point of view. This is a factual based contractual obligation here. What do you want to do?
Yeah, cool. Shane, when I used to auction when I was with LJ Hocker and list and sell, but I go back maybe about 12 or 15 years ago, before I was in real estate, and I looked at a property with some friends that was pretty derelict. It was obviously, you know, a real DIY project.
Beautiful.
And I went to the auction, and you know, the auctioneer's name was Guy Les Donaldson. They're at the LJ Hooker office in Whangarei, and does all the spiel, blah 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 blah. And he goes, "Who'll do an opening bidder and offer?" And I just cheekily said $20,000, because I thought, you know, I've got to start somewhere. And it just went 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And it actually ended up selling for about 170. As an auctioneer, is that a buzz or what?
Yeah, of course it is. Yes, it's a great buzz. There's energy in the room. Yeah. And there's nothing like getting up there and reading through the contract and reading through the conduct of auction, and then just a lovely, beautiful, verbose spiel of a property, an opening bidder offer. Where do we say? And as Kiwis, we tend to sit on our hands and go, I'm going to sit back and wait, which is a terrible strategy, because you can't buy without putting your hand up. So you know. But actually, you know, when the bidding goes good, it's a lot of fun, because we love numbers, right? We love adding up, and we love that. And look, it's good. And when someone bids and someone else bids against you, and then that's the market telling you, the buyer, that somebody sees the value of the property at the same level that you do.
At least where you are, if not better.
That's going to be the person you're going to sell it to in a year's time or whatever. You know, so. I love the transparency of seeing open negotiations on a floor, because you know, if I'm putting in you know, I'm not against any of the other terms of sale, but if I'm putting in a tender, I don't know that gentleman over there is going to pay more than me, and you know, I've done those multi-offers with people. I know I've said, put your best money in, and I've had to make those phone calls and say, you didn't get it, it's been sold.
Oh, we would have done that.
We would have done that.
Yeah.
And you're right. Well,
we
why
tried to
didn't
tell you that.
Yeah. So at least on an auction floor, you're seeing transparency there of where the market sees the value. But yes, when it's going good as an auctioneer, it's a lot of fun. And I remember going to auctions in Auckland, you know, years ago. Gosh, my 12-year-old son could get up and be an auctioneer, and when it comes, sometimes in those markets, we'll go opening bidder offer, where to go, and you just sit back and watch the things fly. Now we have to work pretty hard. Yeah.
So I guess, Shane, at the other end of the scale is when you're standing there, you do the spiel, opening bidder offer, and the room's silent.
Yeah.
That's painful, isn't it?
Oh.
How do you deal with it?
Yeah, how do you deal with it? Our job is to bring the market to the buyers, right? And you do that, and we're reasonably confident standing up there, and we know our legalities, and we know the spiel of the property, and we do it. So if we're working hard with an agent, and we do that, right? It's not just turn up on auction day.
Yeah.
There's mid-campaign meetings, there's reserves. I do a regular focus each week with the auction team and the salespeople to know where the auction's at. So you would have pretty good intel come that auction time of who is perhaps a bidder, and at that point there you work out your starting price. You work out if it's going to pass in. Am I going to put a price in the marketplace, or am I not? Or is he going to bid? Am I going to entice him with a low bid just to get him in, to get him moving, or whatever like that? It's an unconditional bid. We can work together, but no one goes into an auction, and no half decent auctioneer goes into an auction without knowing a full background of what's going on. It's a pretty important decision that people are making, and you know, you're paying. You're paying as a vendor, paying good commission, and two, you're also paying for an auctioneer. So it's we take it pretty seriously about knowing who's in the room,
right,
and who is potentially going to bid, and at what levels we need to start, at what increments we need to go up in, or where we need to pass the property in at, or where our range of perhaps pausing and having a chat to our vendor and saying, now's the time to pull the trigger.
Yeah. So there's definitely still, I mean, auctions have been around for forever and ever, and there is definitely still a place for auctions in the market. I mean, people go, there's not as many cash buyers, but if you're selling, 72% or so under the hammer, there's a lot of cash buyers out there, aren't there?
Well, it's the only possible way as a vendor you're going to oversell your property.
Yeah, true that. Shane, you've had a very successful career on stage and in the acting world and so forth. How did that sort of stand you in stead for your decision to get into real estate and auctioneering?
I don't know if the two work hand in hand as much as people think they work hand in hand. I'm reasonably confident at standing up and bringing people to attention and talking with people. All right. I also, in the 25 years that I was an actor, part of an actor's job is to study people and take on the characters or learn why they do things. Right. And so that's very important when you're suggesting an incremental raise to a particular person. You don't. Is this increment that I'm going to suggest going to be too high and blow them out of money, or too low, or there's the charm that you can talk to them. I think one of the best things for me about now being an auctioneer and working in real estate is that I don't have to act anymore.
It's real right now.
It's absolutely real and right now, and what you get when you sit down with me in a one-on-one in a pause or a reserve set or that's real Shane. There's no character attached to that, and I actually have taken a new lease of life over the past 3 years of being in real estate, of actually not having to be on all the time, and this is who I am, and I enjoy that, because I think at the end of the day, look, people buy and people sell from people they like.
Yes,
that's 101.
Yeah.
There's no tricks to it as far as I'm concerned.
No.
If you're genuine, you listen, you're empathetic, and you're knowledgeable on facts and on law, people will buy or sell from you. That's all it takes. Just be genuine. Just be real.
Exactly. Hey, listen, one other question I've got to ask. So what would be the most expensive property you've auctioned to date?
To date. What did I get? I got $5,500,000 for a 3-bedroom in Herne Bay. Look, I can stand up there and go, this house is not going to sell. This, and then going, what happened there?
Yeah.
That's the power of the auction. Well, this is going to be a tap and it's going to be great, and then have to work really hard. I think one of my most fun ones was in Browns Bay, not too long ago, where all the feedback had been around about 1.25 to 1.3 million, and it was a nice house in Browns Bay with an income attached to it. But these people were now retiring, and they'd been there for a while, and they were going off to live life and downsize and just enjoy life a little bit. And it went crazy. It went ridiculous, and I think I put it on the market at 1.64, and it sold for 1,708,000, and that was $408,000 above where the market feedback had been at its maximum level, just through the transparency of buy. It wasn't being pushed up. It was buyers pushing it up. When I went upstairs to say, hey, did you hear that? And they were white and crying, because they're now retiring, having won the lottery. And had it been a PBN or something like that, they might have taken where the market feedback was.
So what would be probably the cheapest property that you reckon? Have you had a real, not such a disaster, but just something that maybe a very, very low reserve, something that's just gone out the door and you're thinking, wow, that was a bargain for that buyer? You had any of those?
Look, I never think of them as being a bargain. I think the power of being unconditional, of being a bidder that has done your due diligence, is worth probably $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in this current market. If I was selling my property and I wanted $1 million for it, and I got $970,000 unconditional on the floor, I would think about that quite seriously. So I don't know if there's any bar, and that's what the market, that unconditional market, is telling me what that property is worth. I would certainly be thinking about that. Hopefully, as an auction process takes me to $1 million and above. But if it's like going to the races, sometimes, and you hear about the guy who put $5 on the Melbourne Cup and won $78,000. You know, you hear about it, it's in the paper or whatever, but you never hear about the guys that put $5 on and won $5.80. The majority of the time, it's sold for within the market value.
Or the guy that put 10,000 on and won nothing.
Well, you wouldn't sell your house. You just say, no, it's not on the market.
Yeah, no, definitely auction is a great way for vendors and for buyers. As you say, it's transparent, it's there, it's happening, and it's a cash unconditional deal.
It's good for both buyer and for seller because one, it's absolute clarity. You're not overpaying for a property. All you're doing is paying one more bid than that person over there. And from a vendor's point of view, they see where the market is. They still get this. What we do as auctioneers with our company is we'll never sell a property until the owner gives us the approval to sell it. Right? That's pretty strong with us. So even if we've reached reserve and are over, we will have our agents go and say, hey, Shane's there now. Are you sure?
We're doing this.
Yeah. Yes, we can. So we'll never announce it on the market because our legal obligation is to announce on the market before we bring the hammer down. But it's important that our vendors, it's their asset.
Absolutely.
We're just running that program for them.
Cool.
All right, Shane. Hey, been fantastic talking to you.
Thank you.
Anything you want to just wrap up with to the real estate crew out there, or even salespeople or vendors? Just a bit of a wrap up on life in the auction world.
Yeah, look, everybody has an opinion on auction and absolutely entitled to have an opinion, but the market changes so quickly, and it does. So let's say, for instance, I get a lot of occasions, David, where someone will say, no, auctions don't work. My brother's sister-in-law's friend said there was a disaster down the way. The house didn't attract any bids, and it didn't sell under the hammer. That's a true and legitimate statement from some people, and we take that on board and do it. But the market changes really quickly, and we're at the coalface of it every day. And what we don't see is what happens afterwards. So, look, in the first instance, I would be looking at auctioning a property because one, it's fair market value, it's transparent. You get an opportunity to work with both buyers and sellers. The profile market. I haven't seen a television program based on the opening of a tender envelope yet. You know what I mean? That's the profile and the excitement that an auction brings. So there you go.
Awesome. All right, Shane, thanks very much.
Good to see you, mate.
We'll talk soon.
There you go.